The time is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon and welcome to the media news on T Solid Radio. I am Joy Akin Olamigoke. First, the major headlines. Federal government's commissions metering station in Enugu. Okowa calls for proper monitoring of crude oil production. And on the foreign scene, Mozambique party queries legality of foreign troops. And on the world of sports, Poland's Tomala wins Olympic 50-kilometer race walk. And moving on to the news in details. Minister of State for Power, Godi Agba, has said that the federal government will no longer tolerate the installation of fake and uncertified electricity meters by quacks around the country. Agba stated this yesterday during the official commissioning ceremony of the new Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency. National Meter Test Station for the Southeast Zone in Enugu. He noted that the power sector remained the engine of economic growth and development, hence the determination of the government to rid the sector of all cracks and provide safe, reliable, and sustainable electricity to the entire citizenry. The minister, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Power, William Alu, said the construction of the new meter station in Enugu became necessary to bring service closer to the people in the Southeast Zone and to help curb the high use of uncertified meters in homes and workplaces. He noted that the station offers NEMSA the opportunity to discharge its function of testing and certifying meters, as well as creating jobs to curb unemployment. And the Health Minister Osage Hanire has said the current strike by members of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, is a big mistake, urging the striking doctors to return to work today. Addressing reporters yesterday in Abuja, the minister said the strike portrays the doctors in bad light, especially as the country struggles to check the third wave and the Delta strain of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hanire said innocent Nigerians should not pick up at risk because of money-related issues, especially as efforts were being made to address them. The minister said the doctors should not work at cross purposes with the government and defeat each other's efforts as providing effective healthcare for Nigerians. Hanire said the briefing was held to disabuse the minds of Nigerians under strike, harder than most of the issues about the strike concern states and not the federal government. On the doctor's demand for hazard allowance, he said the federal government has set aside a lump sum of payment on its health workers. He said as soon as both representatives agree with each other, it will be resolved and the payment of hazard allowance implemented. And Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta has called for proper monitoring of Nigerians' crude oil production to ascertain volume and ensure transparency and accountability in the oil and gas sector. Okowa made a call at the opening of a two-day retreat of the Investment Committee of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, on Thursday in Asaba. The retreat was organized to enhance the RMAFC's revenue generation and monitoring strategy for improved public spending. Okowa said to ensure effective monitoring of crude oil production and export, there was need to deploy the latest technology such as artificial intelligence robotics to guarantee effectiveness in management of costs. He called for the reduction in delay arising from granting of agencies permits that often led to higher cost of drilling. He also said there was the need to urgently address the security challenges besetting the country, such as crude theft, kidnapping, piracy, and bunkering. He therefore urged the IOC's operators to keep faith with a general memorandum of understanding with the host communities for meaningful infrastructure development and employment generation for peace and stability. And you are still listening to the media news on T Solid Radio. Still to come is the foreign and sport news. Do remember to download our app T Solid on Play Store or log on to www.tsolid.tv. You can as well follow us on our various social media platforms on our T Solid Radio TV. And moving on to the foreign scene, Mozambique's largest opposition party, Renamo, has demanded that Parliament hold an urgent session to discuss the presence of foreign forces fighting armed groups in the Cabo Delgado province. Venancio Moldan, the party's chief whip, said Romano's position is that the body that represents the people should, in principle, debate all the implications of the entry of foreign forces into Mozambique. The party argues that the introduction of foreign troops into the country did not follow the constitution and thought it should normalize and legalize as soon as possible. And Speaker Esperanza Baez said there was no illegality in the decision to allow foreign troops to combat terrorism. She said a session to discuss the situation in Cabo Delgado has been scheduled for October, where the executive would explain itself to the representatives of the people. And the South African's former president, Jacob Zuma, jailed for contempt of court last month, has been admitted to the hospital today, less than a week before he is due in court for a separate graft trial, and he's been treated as a military facility. Zuma, who is 79 years, is scheduled to attend the resumption of a long-running corruption trial on August 10th. The hearing will include a plea to drop 16 charges of fraud, graft, and racketeering against him related to the 1999 purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats, and equipment from 5 European arms firms when he was deputy president. He is accused of taking bribes from one of the firms, which has been charged with corruption and money laundering. Proceedings have been repeatedly postponed for more than a decade, sparking accusation of delaying tactics. Meanwhile, in a separate case, Zuma was handed a 15-month jail sentence in late June for snubbing a commission probing state corruption under his 2009 to 2019 presidency. And Tunisia's former prime minister, who was sacked by the president last month, has been seen for the first time since his shock dismissal 11 days ago. There have been unconfirmed reports that he was under house arrest. He was fired on July 25th, and there were rumors at the time that he had been assaulted. Meanwhile, in July 26th, I beg your pardon, it was reported that Mr. Mechichi denied the assault and said he was ready to hand over to his successor once appointed by the president. But since then, he has not spoken to the media or appeared in public. The World Health Organization said on Thursday that the weekly death from COVID-19 in Africa had reached a record peak in the week that ended on August 1st. Spokesman for the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres disclosed this in a briefing to newsmen at the United Nations headquarters in New York on COVID-19 situation in Africa. According to the reports by the United Nations, Dujarric said that more than 6,400 deaths were recorded in the week, marking the highest seven-day toll since the onset of the pandemic, on the continent where South Africa and Tunisia accounted for more than 55% of the fatalities. According to him, the continent had so far received 91 million doses, with some 24 million people, just 1.7% of Africa's population, fully vaccinated. Briefing on Ethiopia, Dujarric said the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs had confirmed the arrival of the humanitarian supplies in Tigray on Wednesday. He said 175 trucks with humanitarian supplies, including food, non-food items, and fuel, had arrived in Mekelle, the capital of Tigray. He quoted OCHA as stressing that while this recent entry of supplies was a positive test, it was still insufficient, with an estimated 100 trucks needed every day to assist 5.2 million people in need. And on the world of sports, Poland's Dawid Tumala has won the men's Olympic 50 kilometers race walk today, defying the punishing morning heat in Sapporo to stomp to victory in just the second event he had completed over the distance. The 31-year-old crossed the line in 3 hours, 50 minutes, and 8 seconds, matching the achievement of compatriot Robert Korenwowski, who won the event 3 times. Also, Germany's Jonathan Hilbert finished second, 36 seconds adrift, with Canada's Eva Donville matches bronze at the 2019 World Championship in Doha, crossing the line in 3:50:59. However, the event has been dropped for the Paris 2024 Games in favor of a new mixed gender event. And finally, Lionel Messi will leave Barcelona after the La Liga club were unable to fulfill the player's new contract with PSG, already in talks with the Argentina forward. The six-time Ballon d'Or winner has officially been a free agent since July 1 after he failed to agree terms over renewal before his previous Barcelona contract expired on June 30th. However, the 34-year-old had been expected to sign a new 5-year contract with the Catalan club, which would have seen his salary reduced by 50%. But this offer cannot be fulfilled by Barca due to financial and structural obstacles. However, PSG hope to convince Messi to move to Paris instead. Messi has spent his entire career at Barcelona, coming through the club's academy before going on to score 672 goals in 778 appearances after making his senior debut in 2003. Barcelona has, however, been struggling to reduce their wage bill in line with La Liga's financial fair play rules for this coming season, and have been in talks with vice campaigns Gerard Piqué, Sergio Busquets, and Sergio Roberto after reducing their salaries by 40% in return for contract extensions. With that, we've come to the end of the news. A recap of the major headline. Federal government commissions metering station in Enugu, and ECOWA calls for proper monitoring of crude oil production. And on the foreign scene, Mozambique party queries legality of foreign troops. And on the world of sports, Poland's Tamala wins Olympic 50-kilometer race walk. And ensure to go by all precautionary measures to stay safe from COVID 19, as recommended by the World Health Organization and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Do remember to download our app T-Solid on Play Store or log on to www.tsolid.tv. You can as well follow us on our various social media platforms on our T-Solid Radio TV. The news was compiled and edited by Akachi Chijioke. I am Joy Akin Olamigoke. Good afternoon and many thanks for listening. Jason.